Did you know that Microsoft laid off 1,900 Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox employees, including Mike Ybara, and they axed the Blizzard survival game? Yes, this is, well, it's news because you knew someone was going to lose their job, but those ones, interesting. Apparently, Alan Adham has lost his job as well, but I'll find out in a moment because there's a Belulove video that we're going to watch. The axe has fallen on Activision Blizzard, and then I'll react as we go through.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today it's actually
Thank
some pretty damn rough news. We've been tracking the number of job layoffs that there have been in the games industry throughout the last year, and, well, this year's count has just increased massively by 1,900 because Microsoft have axed 1,900 positions across Xbox, ZeniMax, and Activision Blizzard King. We've also got a game cancellation, Mike Ybara leaving as president of Blizzard, which actually goes directly, even though it's being framed as voluntary, it goes directly against something that he said fairly recently. And another just rough wrinkle to this.
I can tell you, I don't think he was expecting to lose his job. Well, I'll get to you in a second. I think he might have been doing that thing where he's like, oh, please don't fire me, because I was looking through all the footage for doing my Warcraft 3 Reforged 4 years later video, and there's the BlizzCon stuff, and he's like introducing Phil Spencer onto the stage, you know, the partnership between Xbox or, you know, Microsoft and Blizzard, and there's kind of like a little tension there, but, you know, we're friends, we know each other, we like each other, that kind of thing.
Is this announcement happened while
like,
loads of their Pacific Coast staff, so the people in California at, say, Blizzard, well, when they were still asleep or just getting up in the morning, like 7 a.m., and even now, a little bit of time after this broke, as I'm recording this, I am seeing, like, staff that I know at these companies posting that they still don't know if they're impacted yet.
Oh.
There were quite a lot of criticisms with...
It's not going to be one of those deals where they find out in a Twitter post, is it? Stay classy.
With Riot's recent layoffs, where they, I think, had rolling updates over an hour as people would find out. This does appear to be a pretty damn worse implementation. Of course, my job here is to communicate to you what's going on, why it's likely going on, and what the impact to you in the industry is going to be. So, in service of that, let's just get into today's story. Now, this comes 1 week after the Xbox Developer Direct. That was basically showing off, like, the future of Xbox titles. So it is rough that now we hear this. And rather suspiciously, well, there is going to be a quarterly earnings report for us to talk about as well. This story broke because The Verge received an internal memo from Phil Spencer to the games division. This was at 7 a.m. California time.
Wow.
And overall, he said this: "Together, we've set priorities, identified areas of overlap, and ensured that we're all aligned on the best opportunities for growth." And yes, that means the 1,900 out of 22,000 people are being laid off, and that actually...
That's quite a large amount. But to be fair, when you're having a massive takeover of a big company like Blizzard, people are going to lose their jobs. Everyone loses their jobs when new management comes in. I just want to see what that bit was about Phil Spencer sent to the Microsoft Gaming Division. Ah, okay. Right.
I'm assured that we're all aligned. 2,000 people are being laid off, and that actually is not that this is a competition, but sometimes these companies are almost treating it that way. This is more than Unity. We're the former #1 of this year's count with 1,800 staff going. Layoff Watch 20...
We have to hope that the staff are basically redundant spots. It's not nice for anyone to lose their jobs, and I'm sorry for anyone that does. But you would hope it wouldn't be important developers or people crucial to making certain projects go through. Rather jobs that are sort of a little bit more menial or able to be easily filled. You know, kind of filler jobs that don't necessarily need to be in the role. Maybe a lot of middle management. Unfortunately, they got rid of the survival game. I'm going to talk about that when Belula talks about it. But that one is like, I'm surprised on that.
2024 is honestly pretty damn depressing. We've now got 5,900 cuts thus far in 2024. January hasn't even finished yet. And we've already reached 60% of last year's total. So if you thought last year was bad, I mean, this year is honestly trending to be so much worse. Another side to this is, well, This is what was announced, what Mike Ybara said. Basically, that he's chosen to leave the company and a new president will be appointed next week for Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah, there you go. Alan Adham is also going to leave. That's the guy they brought in for money and mobile games. So when he came in, you know, Diablo Immortal. I know Diablo Immortal now is probably long term in production anyway. But Diablo Immortal, Warcraft Rumble, so more sort of emphasis on Blizzard moving towards a mobile market, which we were a bit worried about. He was obviously more of a propagator for that because he's a money guy. He likes money. He doesn't really care so much about the product, more about what the product makes in terms of money. So yeah, that's probably a good thing he's going.
Additionally, Blizzard's chief design officer, Alan Adam, is also going to leave. This was part of a post where Matt Booty, who is their president of studios, talked about just his influence, how it'll be felt for years to come. Now, it is interesting with Alan, he was a co-founder of Blizzard way back in the day. He left, and then he came back. And when he came...
I probably will go talk about it in a moment, but just in case he doesn't, just this bit. The survival game from Blizzard has also been cancelled. Some devs on the title are being moved to other early in-development projects. So there's still other projects for Blizzard? Because that was the big one I was expecting. That's the one I was thinking, oh, what's going to come of that? What's going to be of that? That's been going for a couple of years at least now. At least they've been hiring jobs, etc. for it. I know the Samwise Didier left recently, Blizzard. I don't know if, you know, any of these changes had anything to do with that, or he left before this kind of stuff took into effect. But he was one of the guys that was going to be more of the art direction for the game, or at least giving advice. And maybe he wasn't going to be like in the lead of it. I don't know. I think he was the lead art designer on it. So it's a shame. So if he left and maybe thought nothing was going to come of the project.
He was a co-founder of Blizzard way back in the day. He left and then he came back. And when he came back, he was essentially leading an internal incubation division. The context here is Blizzard saw that Hearthstone did really well, even though it didn't have a massive development team. Of course, this is in the era where Project Titan has exploded in their face. They see something like Hearthstone do well, and then Blizzard essentially decided, okay, let's try to incubate more projects like this. Now, there is, of course, Diablo Immortal. I don't actually know if that's part of that incubation program because it was a co-development with NetEase, but as an example, Warcraft Rumble would have been one of the outputs of that incubation division. Obviously, though, that was all years and years and years ago, and not really that much came out of the incubation division that we ever found out about. So there's that. And then there's also the survival game. So their unannounced survival game has, well, I don't want to say unannounced, but it has been cancelled.
It hasn't survived.
Basically, people are moving on to early development on other projects from Blizzard Entertainment. The context here is Dan Hay, who led Far Cry 3 and then produced the rest of that series through to 6. He had came on board to the survival project to essentially steer it in 2022. We don't know if he's going to be out. Context that I had heard is that this project had been in development hell. I've actually had numerous people be kind of confused that it hadn't been cancelled. I have to imagine...
We didn't hear much from it. Certainly nothing from BlizzCon. I certainly thought that if we didn't hear anything from it last BlizzCon, 2023, then this would be the year that you'd at least get some information on it. Maybe not a beta, but some sort of information, and then maybe a beta following it. So, yeah, I guess development hell took it over. They lost Samwise, like I say, so he was in charge of projects, parts of that project. I genuinely thought they would do survival game. So... the fact that they say about other projects makes me think that maybe they're going to take something like that survival game and make another project. Because you remember, like, Overwatch was essentially going to be a game called Titan, wasn't it? Like Project Titan. And they didn't like how that MMO, I think it was an MMO they were creating at the time, kind of felt. So they ended up branching it off into sort of like this team-based shooter objective game. And it worked out very well until, you know, more recently. But, yeah, it's... wonder if they're going to do something with the idea of still trying to create a survival, because honestly I think a survival would be a hit and run. I'll go into it more later, but I genuinely think it would get big money from a survival game, so I'm surprised that got cancelled unless they're going to make it into something else or another type of survival game.
That whenever they did that sort of announcement of the unannounced game, that, you know, at BlizzCon, that they were, I suppose, trying to like rally that team, get some staff on the project, drum up a bit of interest, whatever, that just does not seem to have paid off. And very broadly speaking in the industry, we are seeing companies look at medium risk or high risk projects that will be paying off in the longer term, and they're essentially pulling their chips out of that and they're putting their chips onto safer bets. From the context that I have right now, what a lot of the Warcraft leadership team...
That looks incredible, doesn't it?
They're trying to transition that franchise to be more than just World of Warcraft. That was some of the initial framing of Chris Metzen's return to Blizzard. Of course, now he's very heavily involved doing creative direction for the next number of Warcraft MMO expansions. But just between the lines, I do expect them to be doing more things within that IP. When, of course, we think about a lot of other big companies, what are we seeing? We are seeing...
So, you know, Chris Metzen came back. I spoke to someone and they mentioned the idea of Chris Metzen potentially being appointed leader. And I thought that'd be cool. But I don't know if he really wants the responsibility. This seems like a guy that probably just wants to chill with the World of Warcraft and just enjoy that aspect of the project and not get too burdened by the corporation side of things, because I think that's what stressed him out before.
Sticking with safe IP, not making those big bets. So there's that with the survival game, which was codenamed Odyssey. Jason Schreier said that people at the companies, as of like right now, do not know if they are losing their jobs or not.
6 years.
That's everything that I have seen. Now,
I didn't know it was 6 years in development, that survival game. Wow. They got to do something with the project or, you know, the assets that they created, surely.
You understand that, let's have a talk about the actual memo itself. So, look, I'm just going to read it. We're going to break it down together and analyze it. In a way, this is something that would have been fairly expected, but I think there is going to be a pretty real cost to some of these games. Because even though you can see, oh, you know, there's overlap in these Venn diagrams of what our teams do, that is completely disregarding a lot of specific on-the-job IP, franchise-based and community-based experience that people will have. So let's just go. It has been a little over 3 months since the Activision, Blizzard, and King teams joined Microsoft. As we move into 2024, the leadership of Microsoft Gaming and Activision Blizzard is committed to aligning a strategy and an execution plan with a sustainable cost structure that will support the whole of our growing business. And they say they have set priorities, identified areas of overlap, and ensured they're all aligned for the best opportunities for growth, and that does mean 1,900 people are going. And to be honest, going through the rest of the memo, it's kind of just like fluffy words. Basically, the point here is consolidation.
We're doing this
what happens
for a
when
greater
you actually
future.
Merge different companies together. Think about like development. Now, development, franchise, IP. If you're Microsoft, that's what you're actually looking for. You're looking for game development teams. You're looking to acquire intellectual property, and in the likes of, say, King, you're looking to acquire expertise that you do not currently possess. What are you not looking to acquire? Well, maybe a publishing wing, maybe some operational roles. Of course, loads of corporate roles, because if you've got Activision Blizzard, you've got King, you've got ZeniMax, and then imagine each one of those structures has its own publishing team, commercial team, this team, that team. If you're Microsoft, you're thinking, well, we have all of these duplicated roles across our organization. These don't make sense, so we are going to consolidate them. What this essentially is, right, is you're acquiring an asset, and then you're basically finding all the bits of that asset that you don't want, and then you remove them. So thinking about what the last 3 months likely will have involved, as much as we saw the likes of the campus visits from Phil Spencer, well, on the corporate level, what they're trying to do is minimize the bits they don't want, focus on the bits they do want, which is the development and which is the IP. And essentially what we're left with here is a situation where when you think about sort of the market, this, you know, almost sort of disembodied thing that we may talk about, the overall function of the market is to try to, I suppose, find efficiency and price it accurately, you know? Broadly speaking, that's what it does. That's why if somebody has money in the S&P 500, it just, you know, notches up a little bit. The problem, though, is...
Baylila knows a lot of this stuff. He does his own... Well, he's made his own video game and such. He has his own company, so you can hear a lot of the technical jargon coming out from him here.
A lot of that can be quite...
The business talk.
It can be quite based on the next 3 months. Or the next 6 months, the next year, but not really the next 5 years. And one of the reasons there is because the investors, you know, people putting their money into the market, what they're always going to be doing is thinking about, well, okay, I get that you have a really nice 5-year plan, but actually these people over here are doing better now, so I'm going to put my money over there. And that's essentially one of the things that just keeps on pulling us back to focusing about the immediate. And that's something that's worth bringing up, because this is totally like happening now, partially in the way that it is sort of being announced, for investors, because the quarterly earnings call for Microsoft is really soon. Of course, announcing the Q4 results that may have some spicy numbers in them. And of course, we're in a time where Microsoft stock just overtook Apple, making Microsoft the most valuable company on earth. And so that's one of the challenging things. You have this consistent process of trimming the fat, always looking to optimize this and optimize that. And in a way, you can understand that. However, sometimes I think there's a degree of losing the forest for the trees. You know, these are not perhaps always optimal for your 5-year health. Things like that. And also some of the things that are intangible within a business, such as culture, such as aspects of bespoke experience. Because yes, while there may be overlap between corporate divisions, between publishing, between marketing, between community management, yeah, those are role overlaps, but we must ask ourselves, are they experience overlaps? Is a community manager for Microsoft going to be able to come over and work in World of Warcraft and just immediately do a great job? Probably not, because the people who have been doing that on World of Warcraft are experienced doing that for World of Warcraft with all the...
I know that when I was listening to these old BlizzCast podcasts where they talk about how they made the old games, like including Warcraft 1 and 2 and such, and they say like apparently Warcraft 2 was basically about 9 months of development. Can you believe that? It's incredible, isn't it? And they only had so many people, not many people, probably a maximum of about 32 people or something in that company. So everyone can kind of do a job or overlap onto another job is what they used to do back then. They would do the concept of an art into, you know, the modeling, the scheduling, the overall production of it, and then the finalized polish of it. And multiple people within the company could do artistic jobs as well as programming jobs or coding jobs. So if they needed someone to do coding where they would normally do art, they can sometimes pull them off to do that. Whereas these days, I think in these companies, they have such massive departments, and the departments are so specialized. You have like a guy that is just good at modeling, or a guy that is just good at scripting or coding. You know, I think that's where they struggle.
Unique needs of its community, all the unique
games are so complicated now. You have to be specialized in specific bits.
I think gets lost here. Now, I do have more analysis in this sort of thing, but I want to talk about Mike Ybara's tweet, because it honestly is quite strange. So he says he thanks everybody for their, the meaningful impacts.
I'll read that out quickly. I want to thank everyone who is impacted today for their meaningful contributions to their teams, to Blizzard, and to players' lives. In an incredible hard day, and my energy and support will be focused on those amazing individuals impacted. This is no way a reflection on your amazing work. If there's anything I can help with, connections, recommendations, DM me. It's an incredible hard day, and my energy and support will be focused on all those amazing individuals impacted. This is in no way a reflection on your hard, amazing work. What, him losing his job is not a reflection on their amazing work? Maybe that's what he's saying. It's weird. To the Blizzard community, I also want to let you know today is my last day at Blizzard, leading Blizzard through an incredible time. Oh, I suppose. This is not... sorry, he's talking to them about losing their job. Sorry. Because I was thinking about himself. Yeah, that makes sense. Leading Blizzard through an incredible time and being part of the team, shaping it into the future ahead was an absolute honor. Having already spent 20 plus years at Microsoft, and with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard behind us, it's time for me to once again become Blizzard's biggest fan from the outside. Yes. To the incredible teams at Blizzard, thank you. Words cannot describe how I feel about all of you, and you're amazing. Continue to do incredible things and always keep Blizzard blue and the player at the forefront. To all of those impacted today, I'm available, and my heart is with you. Yeah, it's kind of a fair bit of fluff in there. I got to say, I don't think he's necessarily a bad guy, but the impression I always got was he didn't look very trustworthy at all. You know what I mean? Like when you read someone's face, you shouldn't necessarily judge a book by their cover, but especially during watching that BlizzCon presentation, he looks like he's lying to you whilst he's talking. Do you know what I mean? He's got one of those kind of faces.
That there's any way you can help, connections, recommendations, DM me, which, hey, if that's real and he's actually going to try and help people in that personal capacity, obviously that's the sort of thing that I'd support. He does go on to say, though, that this is his last day at Blizzard. He talks about how it's, been a great time. He wants to be a fan from the outside. This is certainly an interesting one. you may look at this and think, he's informed us it's his
Huh.
last day. The thing then is, I saw a memo from Matt Booty, and this memo from Matt Booty said that Mike Ybara has decided to leave. But this is where things get a little bit interesting. And credit to Jason Schreier for remembering this from the BlizzCon opening ceremony. Well, Mike Ybara said that he wants to say for the long haul, quote, "Someone will drag me out of Blizzard. That's how long I will be here." Is that a man who thought this was November, the start of November, right? Did he think in 2 and a bit months that he would be gone? And when he just said someone will have to drag
Not at
me out
all.
of the building,
I didn't get that
basically.
impression at all.
Yeah, he hasn't literally been dragged out of the building, but something has changed. Either what his role would be just changed in a way that he's no longer okay with it, or he has actually been ousted. We have absolutely no idea, but that's essentially what's going on. Now, per The Verge's sources, this is primarily Activision Blizzard, but some people at Xbox and ZeniMax are impacted. I actually saw...
He had a highly powerful role. So I think Microsoft are probably looking to put someone else in that role. Someone else they feel like they can probably trust more, would be my guess.
Person reveal that they have had their job be cut just before I recorded. We don't really have the full scope of this, and that's why I do intend to do a video on this maybe tomorrow. Maybe we'll publish it on Saturday. I just want to get more facts straight before we really dive into that. Obviously, they are Xbox. They've had ZeniMax for a while. They will have had every opportunity via more quiet means to reduce headcounts within those organizations. So yeah, it does look like a lot of this is Activision Blizzard, and that makes complete sense because that's the thing that they just bought. And to be very clear, something like this was always coming, right? There's just no way that a big company like that doesn't gobble up another big company for $69 billion and then just doesn't try to optimize the new asset that they've gained. The thing is, though, well, the asset that you're optimizing is partially based and, built by and comprised of people. So some of those people are being cut. I think what is maybe surprising to people here is the scale. Yes, it's a large organization, 22,000 is their headcount, but you know what, 8% of that is a lot of people. That is, I think, overtly just shocking as soon as you see it. Ultimately, of course, the genesis of all of this, it is Bobby Kotick. It is everything that kicked off years ago. Because if you'll remember, the stuff from the, at the time, Californian Department of, it was the DFEH, that essentially weakened sort of like the position of the board, it seemed, to the point where they were kind of vulnerable to this offer. So essentially, whenever they were in pretty significant trouble, I think Microsoft, who were already wanting to acquire things, thought, oh, one of the big third-party publishers is vulnerable. They're at a point of weakness. Let's give them a deal that they can't refuse. Because, of course, yeah, Bobby Kotick's gone, but he got a golden parachute. The people who are gone now, likely not having a golden parachute. I mean, at least with Riot, we saw, I believe per Schreier's read in the situation anyway, essentially industry-leading levels of severance. We do not know what those packages are going to be here. But of course, the point here is Bobby, he gets to leave with a massive golden parachute, to the value of hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's chump change for Bobby.
Parachute. This is you can buy a small fleet of jets if you sell all those stocks, tier of golden parachute, right? It's almost a golden helicarrier. The people are not going to get that, and that's the way that is, which is awful.
That's how Bobby would want it, probably.
I think rather interesting here, this is in and around a 10% layoff. I think it's more like 8, but that is the theme we're seeing. Look at Sony. You're dealing with 10% across the board. That's just what seems to be going on. Now, the other bit of context here is Microsoft's second quarter financial results are due to be published on Tuesday, the 30th of January. Now, this is when, of course, they would be reckoning with the impact of the big old Activision Blizzard King purchase. So this essentially leaves Microsoft being able to promote their forethought in dealing with that impact ahead of showing the results to shareholders. And what do those investors think? Well, they're happy. 404, which is probably the error that some Activision Blizzard employees will get this morning when they try to log into a work portal. Okay, probably won't literally be a 404, but hey, you got the point. It's bloody grim. The thing that, I'm obviously extremely, I'm worried and concerned for all of these people. A lot of these roles are being lost across the industry, and that actually means, think about the job market. What's the job market based on? Supply and demand. So everyone's tightening their belt, and as a part of that, they're laying off loads of these staff. It's going to be way harder for these people to get jobs. I mean, even as an example, Josh Allen, he did WoW community stuff.
I wouldn't want to be that guy that says, we'll just get another job. But I would assume, in my sort of reckless way, that it would probably be easier now than ever to sort of start up an indie company or join an indie company and produce a good product, because I think the tools are available. Although Unity kind of fucked things over on that one, but yeah, I think people can still definitely create some pretty amazing products. Sorry, with a relatively small indie team now. But obviously, they'd much rather be working for a big corporation. I was going to say, if it requires or gives you more safety, but that's obviously not the case when they've lost their jobs.
Back in the day. Then he was WoW community manager. Then he went to like a few other companies. I think most recently he ended up at the studio who do the Dragon Prince stuff. And he sort of said, like, right, I'm actually just going to go fully back into content creation because realistically, he sort of said, there are so many layoffs. Like, you're just left. Like, how the fuck am I going to get a job? Essentially. So this is absolutely brutal because it's not like this is one thing in one company. This is in a wider context of massive layoffs. I mean, putting the years together, you're like at 15,000 plus. It's just going to be harder for these people to find a job. Like, money is drying up everywhere, even in like the indie scene from stuff that like I've seen. So this is an absolutely brutal situation. We are going to be monitoring this extremely closely. I would recommend you check the channel tomorrow or maybe just over on Twitter. I'll let you know what our plans are. What I want to do is see if anybody reaches out, maybe just understand how this has actually happened, what sorts of teams are being impacted, and I'll do my best to essentially try to figure out what this is going to mean to you and kind of bring the broader sort of context and the deeper analysis into this, as of course right now this is currently a breaking news story. So that is the situation. Ultimately, I definitely want to thank my team for being able to just quickly get everything that we've been able to find so far. So we've been able to do
did a
this
good job.
video. If you want to support
I didn't know about the Alan Adham guy until I was told about it by someone else.
We're trying to just put our eggs in more baskets. As the person leading this shindig, I mean, like, my number one job right now is ensure this place is healthy and you know, job security is as high as it possibly can be, because I know that things are bloody rough whatever way you look. So down there, we do a bunch of exclusive content, early access to videos, we do loading screen, our daily publication, and we're, of course, going to be growing as time goes on. So there's that. I will see you back here tomorrow. If you're seeing this and you're at these companies, I mean, fuck, there's nothing I can say that's going to make this any better. I'm just sorry you're all being caught up in this. This is awful. Right. I will see you tomorrow. That's it for today.
Right, there you go. That's a great video. Yeah, it definitely compiles a lot of the information that we know in such a short period of time in regards to this situation of Microsoft kicking out Blizzard employees, many of them. So I'll give my overall impact or thoughts. Generally speaking, I would say this is a good thing. I'm sorry for anyone that lost their jobs. I don't know in regards to like the people that are working there, like the sort of more normal developers or people that work in the offices, reception, etc. I don't know if they lost their jobs, if they should have lost their jobs, because I don't genuinely know. The only ones that I do know are the actual main names. Alan Adham, I think he definitely shouldn't be in the company if you want the company to be good for the consumer. Mike Ybara, I think probably best that he's not in the company if you want it to be good for the consumer. I never felt like he sort of truly communicated properly with the teams, even though he sort of gave that impression when he's in his Steam. Like, he talked about the Warcraft 3, for example, in the last video that I did, Warcraft 3 Reforged 3 years later. That was a while ago, but there was a bit where he sort of like, he almost seemed surprised about the existence of Warcraft 3 when someone brought it up to him in his chat, and he's like, oh yeah, Warcraft 3, yeah, we'll ping the team and find out what's going on about this. It's kind of like a blasé answer and stuff like that. I don't know if he was really doing his job or just sort of coasting. So I feel like it wouldn't be a loss, since I don't really know what impact he truly made, and it'd be interesting to see someone else in the leader role. And yeah, I think it's, I mean, the survival game, I'm surprised on that one. So I feel like they'd have to make a survival game, because honestly, I feel like there's big money to be made in a survival game, right? You think game like Rust, Valheim, stuff like that, super popular in their own right, but not sort of mega popular that, you know, a company like Blizzard can reach in terms of its audience, its viewers, its players. Imagine a Blizzard-made survival game. The amount of people that can reach, it'd be incredible. And obviously Blizzard would make it so it's a lot more accessible, a lot more dare I say, easy to get into, so they'll have more of an audience, they'll have more people clamoring into it. Just think about how insane that would be if you had literally the Blizzard name or a massive company like Blizzard producing a high quality survival game. I honestly think that would just make so much money for them. But maybe they couldn't find a way to monetize it, so they ditched it. I don't know. I'm honestly interested to find out more about that. So hopefully Bellula does another video on that one in the future. It's a good video. Thanks, Bellula, for this video. Thank you for watching. If you've got any opinions on what any of this really means, then feel free to jot it down in the comments below. And have a good day.